If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as follow me and subscribe to me on all my other social media platforms. What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with another album review for you guys. Gonna be talking about another pretty big one, mostly in the underground, but it's a big album in the underground, and that is the latest offering from Alkaloid, Numen. So this came out also on September 15th, and this is a band that I've been needing to check out for a while, considering the lineup you got in this band, featuring former and even current members of bands like Necrophagist and Obscura and Eternity's End. Particularly the big two members, Christian Munzner and Hannes Grossman, and I love both of those guys. They're excellent musicians. Christian's such an awesome guitarist who can play some really awesome leads and get as technical as you can, but still be able to deliver riffs. And then Hannes Grossman, one of my favorite modern extreme metal and prog metal drummers out there. So, spoiler alert, I did pick up the first album on my recent vacation in Toledo. I'll be talking about that album in a future collection update video. And here I am checking out the latest one. I still need to check out Liquid Anatomy, the one before this. But here we are with a new one with Numen. So we kick things off with, oh god, I'm going to have to try my best to not screw up how to pronounce this word. So we got Clipfosis. I think I got it. Clipfosis. Right away, sweet bass line with proggy clean guitars to build tension. And then just out of nowhere, chunky guitar tone and riffs with a death metal rhythm. After all, this is progressive death metal, but sometimes, as far as from what I was told, this band tends to be sometimes a little bit more on the prog metal side, and then other times they'll just go full-bore death metal or tech death even. But with this opening track, with how these chunky riffs with the death metal rhythms come in, it's like, man, it's just screaming pure death metal. But then you get these odd time shifts that bring in the prog elements and even like clean dissonance. And even clean vocals is a pretty big thing on this whole album. The vocalist and guitarist, I forget his name at the moment, but delivers some badass death metal roars and some solid clean vocals that don't feel cheesy. Although here on this track, when his clean vocals come in nicely, you get this like sweet soaring melody, so it led to this like really cool dynamic. And then just absolute chaos ensues as you get wild guitars and bass that almost feel jazzy, like chaotic jazz. But then you get more death metal parts with a death metal section and blast beats. And then as far as like the leads, of course the leads are going to be excellent, and they're done very well by both the frontman. I forget his name. You know what? I'm just going to have to look it up. So live looking up in the middle of a recording that won't be edited out because I'm stupid. Florian Magnus Mailer, I believe. I'm not sure how to pronounce his pseudonym, but Florian, he and Christian do a really good job with the leads, whereas you can definitely tell their styles. Like Florian definitely has more of like the feeling leads with a touch of shred, whereas Christian's just all about shred and sweeps and taps. So it's like this really cool like trade-off dynamic between the two. And that's pretty much a big thing on this whole album when it comes down to the leads. Now, the Cambrian Explosion, or Cambrian, there we go. Cambrian Explosion, great guitars before it just gets flat-out tech death. Very much in the vein of Necrophagist, I would say. But I also like, you get these like Middle Eastern-inspired acoustic guitars and even a clean guitar lead. Almost thought of Nile immediately. Then again, if you're going to incorporate Middle Eastern flair, you're going to think of Nile, because they're the band that does the Middle Eastern flair the best. Well, one of the bands. Perhaps Orphan Land would be another one that you would think of as well. But again, more jazz parts come in, and that's another thing. Whenever the album does get into the most chaotic parts that aren't in the tech death or death metal realm, it's very jazzy. Like I would say here, as well as the following track, Clusterfuck, you get like a really cool like jazz drum part. And then even the fungi from Yugoth, or Yugoth, more of that like chaotic jazz, just madness. But back to Clusterfuck, you get these moody clean guitars coming in that makes me think Opeth, and then huge riffs and grooves with solid dissonance, very much in the vein of Morbid Angel and even Immolation. So this is where you start to get more proper death metal going for it. It even gets a bit doomy at times with how slow the song does get from time to time. But you do have a great chorus with solid vocals, more proggy time shifts going on, and then like an excellent lead that's followed with a solid bass line and more of the jazzy drums. And then suddenly you get into this like double time stomp that makes you think of Bolt Thrower. Now we move into Shades of Shub-Nigroth, which may be an homage to the band Shub-Nigroth. But this track packs some chunky riffs that kind of feel like a modern Dream Theater riff, but it's packed with a bit more aggression. And then it turns into tech death, and then you get like a nice galloping rhythm but chugging guitars, and then it suddenly turns into a mellow death song in the chorus but with some clean vocals on top. A Fool's Desire, which was probably one of my favorites on the album, suspenseful acoustic guitars and clean vocals to start to kind of again bring back more of the prog metal in here. Then it gets a bit doomy, and then guitars that kind of come in that felt like Mastodon with the dissonant melodies, and there's even little bits of like a hard rock vibe going on with some of the riffs as it has a more of a rocking swagger going. And then suddenly it gets back to straight up death metal, and it's brutal, like in the vein of Morbid Angel, but then you get like these nice peaks and valleys in the build that felt like Dream Theater. Then you get this like real evil dissonant riff bringing back Immolation vibes. There's a lot of Immolation vibes whenever it gets in these like dissonant atonal riffs that come in and pop in from time to time on these songs. But then you get this wild tech death section with the blasts and the guitars before you get probably one of the best lead sections of the whole album, because you get harmony, melody, and shred. Now, the fungi from Yugoth, nasty Morbid Angel riffs coming in once again, but you do get some really cool proggy melodies. Death metal chugs and groove with that evil dissonance, keeping that Immolation vibe alive. But you get some like real nice clean melodies before you get a real brutal breakdown. And then like the jazz section we get here with the clean guitars almost made me think of Future Breed Machine's clean section by Meshuggah. Then we move into the Black Siren, which actually, this is actually 2 discs. So we just concluded disc 1, which is insane. Then disc 2 starts with the Black Siren, which is just this beautiful acoustic interlude. And then you get to the title track, Numen. Sci-fi vibes immediately, but it does have more of that old school prog vibe like Dream Theater, but dare I say Rush and even Yes kind of brought into the fold. Then the guitars are more atmospheric when they come in, clean vocals kind of carrying the narrative forward, kind of a quirky chorus, and then you get these like sci-fi synths here and there on this track, and it did get to be a bit much for me. But once they went away, the guitars got heavier, pulse-pounding bass groove as the drums are just going absolutely insane, before the ending gets rather rambunctious. Recursion, beautiful guitar harmonies right away, blast beats and tremolos that, again, feel like Morbid Angel, and lead lines galore, I would say. Then the folding, immediately, dissonance, chunky riffs, but some cool lead melodies. And lots of, like, mood building, like more of those peaks and valleys within the song. Quirky guitars on top of a groove, but then you get this, like, syncopated rhythm that felt like Meshuggah, and there's even some of that djenty 8-string guitars going on, which again, djent is not a genre, it's just the use of 8-string guitars, but I digress. And then it gets into this sudden atmospheric shift where it almost feels like an apocalypse is going on. And there's even some backwards play at the end. But then we get to the final track, Alpha Fur, which is 13 and a half minutes. And probably still the best track of the album. And all of the bands that I wrote that I can compare parts of this to, like the beginning moody moody clean guitars, made me think of Catatonia a little bit. And even the clean vocals that come in at the beginning almost had a throat singing quality to it. Acoustic guitars to add to the mood, rock and riff, but then some dissonance comes in briefly. Then you get acoustic guitars, riffs and grooves that felt like Opeth. Morbid Angel riffs come back as double basses being showcased. Dark dissonance before it turns into a death metal onslaught. Eerie clean guitar section with more dissonance. Great leads. Again, the leads top to bottom are fantastic. And then some Dream Theater vibes coming in at the end. So I pretty much said this song has elements of Dream Theater, Morbid Angel, Opeth, and Catatonia. Which, yeah, this band pulls out a lot of influences. But the whole song just goes on an absolute adventure. Then again, this whole album is quite adventurous with all the influences, all the parts. It's just a roller coaster in a good way. Now, as far as anything to complain about, it was mainly parts within a couple tracks. Like I said, the sci-fi synths on the title track were just a little bit too much and kind of overpowered everything for me for the most part. But other than that minor gripe, this is a really damn good album. Great album. I give this a 9 out of 10. This album has definitely made me an Alkaloid fan, and I can't wait to listen to the debut that I bought, and then go back and listen to Liquid Anatomy. But of course, this is all just my opinion. What did you guys think of Numen by Alkaloid? Let me know in the comments, and until next time, keep your horns high and your dreams wet.